Just want to make sure you start at time.
Okay, would like to call to order the regular city council meeting for March 26th.
Hang up, and we're actually on.
Say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
John will sing after that.
Oh, yeah. Or you did it.
Nope, she did.
Any corrections to the agenda?
Nope. Agenda is submitted as listed.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Anybody from the public that would like to talk about something that is not on the agenda? Becky?
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the Tracy Community Project Fund. I'm part of the upcoming April 30th Friday show and silent auction that we're going to be having. Can you hear me? Am I talking loud enough? We're very positive about this project. It's actually been kind of fun to work on it, to reach out there. I think I've even asked some of you here if you wanted to perform your talent. Oh, she's still saying no. Okay. It's kind of the answer I get from most people. But if there's anyone here that has some hidden talent, we really would like to find a comedy act. And you can make up your own comedy act. You could all act as a comedy act if you wanted to.
There's a joke in there.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, for all of you that might not know or have seen any of our posters, we have almost 80 of these around town in local cities around here. And Tom, I was going to ask you, do you know when your Cinnamon Hen is opening so we could get one of these to you?
Take one with me as we go.
Okay.
Not sure when we're opening.
Okay, all right, yeah. And just so you know, we have 8 talents that are going to be performing that night, mostly musical, but in all local. Gary Rue is someone from my class, Super 69ers, and kind of where I started in trying to plan this because he has been in town several times for other things. And so he's giving us 45 minutes of his talent, which is mostly vocal, different instruments. So that should be fun. We have a cello player, Alan Pearson. I think some of you know his talent from his ability to play the piano. Jamie Leonard, Sahlstroms are willing to give us some of their time that day. They haven't been out too much in the public lately, I think probably because of their expansion of their family and, you know, things going that way, grandpa and grandma, that type of thing. Pat Kavanaugh, if any of you know him, he is with the country club and he's going to be our kind of our resident MC comedian of sorts. Justin Lessman is from Tracy, a graduate from Tracy. Jim Christian and his family, graduate from Tracy. Gavin and Kim Van Moore, Gavin graduated from Tracy. Sam Obel is a postal worker here. He's not graduated from Tracy, but he works in the community. We have been able to get 10 sponsors, which has really been a great thing to accomplish here too, because that will help defray some of the costs, especially their food, which we don't know what we're going to be serving, the rental at the caboose. Our cost should be minimal, but you never know. You never know. We have 400 tickets that we'd like to sell for that, which is kind of an exaggeration probably, but if any of you here would like to sell tickets for us, we would love to hand some of those out to you as well. The cost of the ticket is $20. We thought that was pretty reasonable based on some of the things that have been in the area. Let's see, some of our silent auction, we're not done with that yet, of course. We have 18 holes of golf from Tracy with 2 carts. St. Mary's Pies, which is always a big hit to the community. I think our big one here too is Wild Water West. We have some Chanhassen tickets that we're going to be having this year as well. Ralco has come on board and they're going to be giving us some shrimp and a couple other things. Robert Ankrum is donating something. We have, there's a golf place in Sioux Falls. I guess you can go there and shoot golf balls and, I don't know, get lessons in the whole 9 yards. So we have that to look forward to. Runnings in Marshall is giving us, I guess, what you might call a humongous grill. I don't know what that means. Tracy Lutheran Church Ladies, Ruth Ann, myself. So everyone's kind of coming together, hopefully, to make this a success. The people that I have on here already is just a start of what we're going to be doing in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we hope you can all come, that you want to come. And if you can't come, please at least buy a ticket, you know. So, any questions for me? Nobody? Huh?
I will take some tickets to sell.
Can I drop some off to you at the hospital? How many would you like?
How many are in the book?
Oh, they're all loose. So
Oh.
10? Is that okay?
20.
20. Thank you very much. I will do that. Yeah.
And this will be at the high school.
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, this big production is at the caboose on the 30th of April at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We're planning like an hour and a half program with an intermission. Silent auction, you can come at 1 o'clock and see the items that we will have, and you can bid on them, and then we'll be able to bid again halfway through the program, and then close it out at that time.
So with your ticket, Becky, is there a meal with it?
Well, there'll be,
A sandwich?
we started out having a big dessert, you know,
Okay.
but then we got realistic and thought maybe if we don't do that, there'll be more money in our coffers. So we're kind of down to cookies and coffee and punch, but
Oh,
that's
okay,
not,
so-
you know, that's not for sure. We'll
So like
see,
a
we'll see. We don't want to look chintzy, but we want to make people glad that they came. A lot of people just come for that lunch anyway, so, yeah. Anything else? Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yes.
For you, Becky, or the group. How are you doing on your fundraising?
I called Janine just before I came, and right now we're at 600, she said I could say 630,000 plus dollars. I don't know what your last update was, but I did ask her that in case someone here might want to know.
You guys are doing great.
That's pledges
Yeah.
and contributions.
I think it's everything. I think it's pledges and, you know, because you have to put them in somewhere when you're, you know, paying out and whatever. I don't know how all that works. I don't mind doing this. It's kind of my wheelhouse here, so, yeah.
Sounds like a great event.
I think it's going to be. I get so excited, and then when I talk to somebody and they can't do it, then I get disappointed. Then I'm still talking as fast, but I just think it can really be a fun day if the community comes out and really wants to participate, so,
Awesome.
okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A lot of work.
Anybody else from the public that would like to talk about something? Okay. Moving on to the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 13th council minutes, approve municipal accounts payable without breakthrough beverage, approve municipal accounts receivable, approve resolution 2023-21, approval of the 2023 Masonic lease, and approve resolution 2023-26, approving the charter members.
I'll second it.
A first and second, any further discussion?
I had just a couple of questions on a couple of the items.
Okay.
On the Marshall area YMCA, $120, is that for leading the new exercise programs?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and then I noted that $80 to Doria Drost, again, who's been one of our consultants on.
That's correct.
On
The EDA grant
EDA
program for the
grant
website stuff,
program.
yes, that's correct.
Okay, are we getting close to that?
Yeah, we're getting close to the end of that. The last day that we can spend money on that will be early October of this year, and so we'll basically be closing out that grant later this year. Yeah.
And then I had just a comment to make about the proposed lease for the Masonic group for the upstairs area, and I certainly appreciate all the Masons do, and I'm glad that they can utilize that space. But I just wonder if down the road we could be working toward trying to get a little more rent for that space than $750. I'm just thinking maybe at some point we could advertise for the space or just see if there's anyone that might be interested.
I would go with that, to see if there's anyone else interested, because we'd hate to lose what we have.
No, and I would too, and I don't mean to cast any aspirations on the Masons, and I'm glad that they're there, and I'm glad they're using it, but you know, $60 a month is not a lot.
And does that tie that facility up then totally, no one else can use it during the year then?
Well, according to the lease, it's the exclusive use of the old council chambers,
correct.
plus an office in the corner of the building.
That's correct.
So, just
It
wanted.
is. You're correct, and I was gonna mention that is that you couldn't rent the space to anybody else during the year. Would we like to get more rent out of it? Yes, certainly we would. There's some disadvantages of it, you know, there's not handicap accessible on the second floor, it's not so easy to get to. It's got some, well, you know, I mean, if you've been up there, it looks like it's 1972, you know, so. I'm not complaining about the year, you know, but if you like orange carpeting, that was your time. If that was your heyday, George, then we know what you're all about, orange carpeting. But, you know, all teasing aside, I agree with you, you know, historically, we haven't had a lot of people banging down our doors. My belief is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I wasn't here when the Masonic building was torn down, but my belief is that at some point, you know, people kind of said, well, if we're going to tear that building down, we need to find a place for the Masons, and we literally took everything that was, you know, left that they wanted to save, you know, and put it up there. And so this is one of the things that if you ever wanted to use that space for something else, you know, you'd have to have a conversation with the Masons about that, because I don't know what representations were made at the time, you know, when the Masonic building was torn down.
I don't know that the Masonic building was usable at that time even.
Could be.
I think they were out before.
Yeah. Yeah, Jan, do you remember, I thought actually the Masons moved up there before the building was torn down because it had become unusable.
I honestly don't recall that, and I'm not sure, was I still on council when that was torn down? But I would hate to, if there's really been no other people inquiring about the use of a room, and they do, I'm assuming in their own janitorial, we're not cleaning that?
We clean it, yeah.
Oh, we clean it for that,
Yep. You
which
know,
consists of mainly vacuuming,
not a lot, to
The
be honest with you.
carpet.
Pretty much, that's it.
carpet.
You know, honestly, I mean, let me make the suggestion, because I was just sitting here contemplating this as you were asking this question. You know, one of the things that the city council added, you know, to the goal on the community center is kind of the use of the VMC, and I think it's a great discussion to have about, okay, well, what do we do with the VMC, right? I mean, we shot a proposal at you for an art space on the second floor over there, and we've been trying out some new programming here. We know the school uses it still, and other, you know, programs like that. We're gonna, assuming that we get the grant that we're planning on getting this summer for the building's conditions assessment, we'll have a sense for what needs to be done to the building. But I think that when you have that discussion about the condition, you ought to talk about what are we going to do with it, you know, what, I mean, and meaning what are you going to do in it, you know? And so there really hasn't been a good discussion about that, and almost that space upstairs has almost been kind of, you know, no offense to Diane who sits up there next to Jeff, almost been kind of forgotten, you know, that it even exists, you know. So that's my suggestion. I mean, I agree with you. I'd love to get more rent or something, or more use out of it, but
Well,
I think it's worth a discussion.
Well, my concern, and I asked here before we even started, is that that's fine going forward for this a year, correct?
Yeah, we're talking about this year, yeah.
Yeah, because, you know, if and when we begin doing renovations, that that's gonna be one area that'll be tied up with that and maybe unusable for a period of time for them, as, you know, they're making renovations either to the roof or the heating, or it's gonna affect the whole building. And then at that point in time, the usage of it, we may need to figure out, will that be an area that we need to use for, you know, more traffic than what it's being used for. For this, rest of this year, I think that's awesome that it's getting used, but it would not hurt to at least let it be known that that might be something that might be, either need to be moved to another location, or there has to be some accommodation to having all of that space tied up.
Well, I look on the fact that we are willing to tie up the space in the old office complex of the National Guard building for doing that art project. I mean, that's pretty much exclusive, right, for that purpose?
I wouldn't
Wasn't,
say
I think I asked that
necessarily.
before.
No, they didn't say, they said that it would be, depending upon what's in there, they said it certainly could be used for other things too.
I mean, as if we get this grant for the rural,
Activate rural.
activate rural, that'll be part of the project to determine how and what we would use it for and how much. We were required to designate a space for that purpose in the grant, but that's going to be part of the discussion, I think, over the next couple of years. Well, what do you do up there? Maybe you don't need the whole space, you know, for art. Maybe you want a combination space that includes that and some other stuff. I don't know. You know, I mean, I think that's part of the discussion, but it would dovetail really nicely to a general discussion about the building too, you know, for that matter.
Right, and so my only thing was, does it need to be exclusive? You know, can only the Masons use that part of the building?
That is what the contract says, and that
I
is-
understand that, but in the future, for negotiations, if there could maybe be an accommodation, because how often do they meet?
I was just gonna ask the same question.
I think only about monthly, and there aren't too many members yet anymore, and
Right now, we're not going to do anything in the next year.
No,
So I think
absolutely.
we can approve the lease tonight.
Yep.
And then as we move forward, because even if it is, I mean, there's always an out. I was trying to look to see if it's a 30-day notice or what we have to give, but there's always an out if we have to because
Sure.
of the historical society
Yeah.
deeming it part of the building and everything. I think tonight it's to move forward to approve the lease for this year, and then we just make sure we include that in our planning as we move forward with the VMC's
Yeah,
historical.
and I'm not opposed to the lease at all. I just wanted to bring it up more as a discussion item to
Good idea.
think about the future.
Okay.
Okay, so, roll call, please.
Dobson,
Yes.
Teagues,
Aye.
Landay,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Arvisu,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes,
Mayor Corman.
Do we have an,
I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable to Breakthrough Beverage.
I'll second.
first and second, any discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Landay,
Aye.
Dobson,
Aye.
Arvisu,
Yes.
Schmidt,
yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye. So we move on to mayor council communication. Looks like we have some board appointments.
Yep, we do. We have 2 board appointments. We have 3 openings on the library board, and we got 1 application from a returning member, and 1 opening on the police commission, and 1 application for that. And I think we still have some openings on some other ones as well, but 2 on the planning, and what are the other ones?
I think that's it.
And that's it. But we don't have. What's that?
Charter.
Well, we just did the charter.
Right,
But there will be. And so 2 more on the planning commission. So at this point, after tonight, if you approve these, we'll have 2 in the library and 2 in planning still.
I'll make a motion to accept Joan Zimke's application to be on the library board and Rosemary Martin to be on the police commission.
I'll second that.
First and second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Teagues,
Aye.
Arvisu,
Yes.
Dobson,
Yes.
Landay,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
So we just want to put that out there in public TV land, that we have 2 openings for the planning commission and 2 for the library.
And more for the charter.
Yeah, and for the charter. So if anybody would like to be on those boards, to come down to the city and put an application in. Okay, staff report. Val, do you want to go?
All right, you've got my report there. I just wanted to add that we're moving forward with some planning for a civic arts project for this year, which we have budgeted for. You can look for artist Sammy Jo Miller and me at the Women's Expo this weekend. We'll be talking with the community and talking to them about Tracy, what it means to them, and what they might be interested in with a civic arts project. So look for us there, stop by and see us. Then I want to move on to annual report highlights. Hopefully everybody has one of those. I was channeling spring when I made that. Some nice pastel hues there. Every year we have to submit a report to State Library Services. We keep track of these numbers all year long, and then we report it to them, and it, helps them know what the state of libraries in Minnesota currently are. As we all know, we had a little blip in 2020, so things have been a little odd, but in 2022, I feel like we were really starting to get back into our normal mode. So circulation was 18,161. That was up 9.3% from 2021. And looking back at previous numbers, that's back up to actually about 2018 numbers, which I'm quite pleased with. So as you can see, children's are our most popular checkout, followed by adult. Digital is up a bit. I'd like to see that go up some more. We have some really great digital options for people. Programs, I'm pretty proud of that. We were up 45% from the previous year, up to 59 programs in 2022. So that's a little over 1 program per week, which, it kind of gives some reality to what the space is being used for. And yes, it is being used. It's being used frequently. So that is important for people to know. We had a total of 21 adult programs, 27 children's programs. That's for all ages of kids from birth to 18. And then for all ages, that just means anyone is invited to come. And sometimes, you're going to have an adult program and someone brings their kids, and you're going to have children's programs where you get a lot of adults who come, and that's fine. Basically every program at the library is a family appropriate program, so we think that's great. Then below that, on the other side, the physical collection shows you how many books we have. So we've got about a little over 17,000 books, audiobooks 625. We don't buy as many audiobooks as we used to just because of the digital items that are available. We do have a number of DVDs yet. Below that is our electronic collection. So that's split up by regional and statewide. So regionally, we purchase things collectively with the Plum Creek Library System. So we each chip in a certain amount every year, and we use that to buy ebooks and e-audiobooks. So that would be that 12,000 of ebooks and 4,000 of e-audio. And then statewide, we have something called eBooks Minnesota, and they also offer quite a number of free ebooks, which is great. Collections would be things like our Scholastic databases that we have available for people to use for free. And then on the right-hand corner gives you an idea of the usage. We had almost 10,000 visits in 2022. We have about 1,200 registered users. Things that are down from when I first started working here would be computer sessions and wireless sessions. I think that's just a sign of the times that more people, are using the data on their phone, or they've got internet at home, so they're not using that quite as frequently as they used to. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Well, I was noting that you guys still have 2,200 DVD rentals, or rentals.
Yeah.
Takeouts. Has that gone down since you started?
You know, it's kind of, it comes and goes, honestly. You see a lot where people maybe first moved to town and they haven't gotten cable yet, so they're checking out a number of DVDs for a time. You know, these days there are a lot of people who've kind of cut that cord with cable, and so they're doing more of ordering series on DVD through the library and checking those out and watching them that way instead, which is a really great option for people because it's free. So, you know, the people who check out the DVDs check out a lot of them. There maybe aren't a lot of those people who check out a lot of DVDs, but you know, those ones who we have, it's very important to them, and we obviously value them coming into the library.
Okay, well, I'm glad that there are
Yeah.
people still using it.
Yes.
I wondered sometime with this age of streaming,
Right.
if that's going to be a dwindling thing.
And it, you know, it's changed, I would say. You know, the people who come in now, they want their very specific things, and they're ordering their next couple seasons in the series that they're watching, or, you know, that sort of thing. So it has changed somewhat.
Okay. So you do order some new DVDs then?
You know, I don't order many, but we do get a lot of donations, which is great. And, you know, I order a few every year, but not a ton.
Okay. How about, are you having enough shelf space to move in some new books then?
It's always a constant in and out. I constantly need to be weeding and don't always have the time to do it, but we try to keep, you know, that physical collection number about the same every year, just so it doesn't get too overcrowded.
Well, keep up the good work. I
All
think
right.
We've got a very nice library.
All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, Val.
Thanks, Val.
Jason, do you want to go?
I didn't have much in my report this month, but I'd bring you some parking ticket information for the season. So far, we've written 41 snow removal citations, 23 of which have been paid. 18 are left unpaid yet, but there was 10 in this last session, so that doesn't, from the prior sessions, they're not that far out. There's only 3 that, from the earlier part of the winter, that had to be sent out for criminal citations. So, other than that, and what's in my report, I've been working with Matt Gross and Eric, and we're working on putting together an agreement, a mutual aid agreement with the city of Walnut Grove. It's not going to entail a lot. It's basically just going to cover some basics so that the city of Walnut Grove does not have police coverage at this time. And so they've been, you know, they have an emergency come up. Redwood County calls us if their officers are long distance away, and we've been putting some time in going over there. And with this mutual aid agreement, it gives us the ability to charge them and collect for some fees and stuff. So you'll be seeing that in the near future. I think we have it just about ready to present for incoming meetings, so that's been taking up some time.
About approximately how many calls do you go that way for? And it doesn't matter that much, I was just curious.
Yeah, in the last week, I think we've been over there twice, and then probably in the last month, we've been over there 5 or 6 times.
An hour at a time, possibly, or?
It's usually until the scene's safe, and I mean, that's basically what we're doing, is holding the scene until Redwood gets there.
Oh.
We're not doing any investigation, we're not presenting anything to court, we're not writing the case reports for their county attorney. We're there to keep everybody safe until Redwood gets there to investigate what's going on. And, you know, we may submit some secondary report kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you.
So
So Jason, when that happens, does the officer on duty and Tracy go over there, or do you have to call up a second officer then from Tracy, someone who's just on call?
We'll send our, whoever's on duty over there, and then we'll have somebody here covering call while he's gone until he returns. So,
And that's worked out so far?
so far it is, yeah.
Okay. Jason, one other quick question. This Sunday Star Tribune had a quite extensive article on the shortage of places to take people who are in a mental health crisis, shortage of beds, and it described a very dire situation. Is that kind of your experience around here? Is there a shortage in this area also?
Yes, huge. Tracy Ambulance will do transports. We'll go directly to the hospital because it's the closest care facility when we deal with that type of thing. But we also have to provide security for the people at the hospital until those people are shipped out. And sometimes the ambulance is taking them as far as Duluth or Fargo. Yeah, so we've shipped a number of them to Rochester if they have an opening. So it's not always just a transfer to Sioux Falls.
Any solutions on the horizon that you can see?
No.
What would be the closest facility if there was room?
Marshall.
Marshall, okay.
Marshall has a facility, but I believe they've only, if memory serves me right, I think it's like 13 beds that they have. So it's not very many.
Yeah.
Do you see an increase in the number of mental health crisis situations in your police work?
Yes. So
How many of those might be related to, for instance, drugs or?
a lot. There's always a combination of alcohol and substance abuse that leads to the decline of the mental health or increases the mental health issues. So
Well, on a happier note, I told Officer Hanson this, but it was greatly appreciated that he posted that information about the Northern Lights, so some of us could fly out there and see that. It was, I never thought they were, I went to frickin' Alaska looking for those.
see, and I gave
We didn't have to go all that way up there.
See, and I gave him a bunch of grief about it because Carver County had a beautiful picture of the Northern Lights with their squad car right in it. And I said, where was our squad in the picture of the background lights, you know? And he says, I tried and tried and tried. He says, but it couldn't get enough light to get the car to shine out like theirs did, so,
I believe he tried to.
yeah. He took some nice pictures.
Did I have to, can you, like earlier that night, could you have seen those colors without having to use your phone? Or no?
I don't know. I wasn't out there.
Because I mean, like a normal, if I saw that at night and not known that it was there, I probably wouldn't even thought anything of it. But anyway, that was awesome.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, Tyler, do you want to go even though you're in my parking spot?
Oh, yeah. We gotta talk
Oh, is
about,
that your parking spot?
we gotta talk about that.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Now I know. Now I know.
Probably don't want that to happen again.
Is that the record backing up right now?
No, that's
It's
Kendall
still
with
there,
his
isn't it? The
backhoe.
Couldn't we just have a little portable sign thing we could put out there on nights?
Shane and I have talked about moving the sign. We probably will this summer, but we were waiting for the weather to get better. We need to market better too, for that matter, so.
Yeah, mayor parking, oh no, I'm kidding.
We could do mayor parking.
Jan, you should have told me you saw me park there.
Can
Well,
we
it
pick where
wouldn't-
the parking would be?
That will take out of your pay.
I'll go and my
I bet
$24.
she'd have to give us money. That'd probably the rate you're paid.
Well, to start out, I just wanted to say that it was really neat renting a couple of books from the library. I rented Seabiscuit and Unbroken, really awesome books. And then I was able to watch the movie too. So pretty neat to have that. you have my report in front of you. Utilities was pretty average this month. In the month of February, it wasn't anything new, kind of pretty normal numbers. And with the facilities, I just wanted to mention I really appreciate all that Jeremy does when tournaments come here. I mean, they're here on the weekend, and he has to do a lot of prep work for that, and cleanup, extreme amount of cleanup. And he has to be here present while they're going on also, because they're running out of toilet paper, running out of paper towel, things get messy, things spill. And he was here on days that were not nice, weather-wise, preparing for those. So really appreciated him. And there haven't been any more problems with the heat. Boxcar Liquors had a really good February month. The highest sales for the past 5 years. I don't know if it would have been ever for February. I don't have records that far back, but it was a good February. And as far as licensing, the revenue for charges for services decreased in February compared to last year. And on October 1st, a new law is going to take effect, and that eliminates the requirement to prove legal presence in order to obtain a standard driver's license. It's a big change. And then also the state is considering opening up more exam stations. Up north, there's some places where people have to drive extremely far just to get a driver's license or get tabs for their car. And, well, especially driver's license. Tabs you can do through the mail or online, but that will be good for those people. That's all I've got.
Will we become one of those stations for the driver's exam? Used to.
For the, the exam? No, that's up in Marshall.
Okay, that's the only place.
Slayton. Granite Falls.
They used to be able to do it here in town.
Granite Falls, yep. Years ago when I got my license.
You had a license for a horse and buggy?
Yeah.
Jeez, it's getting ugly.
I'm older than her.
This pot calling kettle black.
I was gonna say, I'm older than her, so I can say that.
So Taylor, are you feeling comfortable?
I thought it was just a couple
Yeah.
years ago,
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for asking.
Taylor, do you have a feeling or an inkling for how much of an uptick in driver's license applications we might experience here?
In regards to that law taking effect, I couldn't imagine it'd be that much of a difference at all, really.
Will the process be quicker though, because you're not having to have all those documents now?
Right.
So it'll be a lot.
And they
For the
haven't,
standard license only though, not the enhanced or the royal. You still need the documents.
Or if they have to take the test or whatever.
yeah, because those are really like almost federal licenses to be able to fly. So those will stay the same.
There's a number of them that are, I know from Arizona back to here, you have to actually take the test, which requires you to go to Marshall anyway, horse license. So you can't just walk in and change your license.
And they're talking about changing that too.
I was
know.
gonna say, they're saying that.
A year too late. 2 years.
These are payments.
I did.
Any more questions for?
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
But
Tamara, you want to go?
Shane should have went first.
Oh, I'm doing this, you mean?
What?
Yeah.
So we did have a good February. Sales were a little over 60,000. We were good with purchases, like right around 26,000, but again, that made up for what we spent in January. We had a cash flow of like a little over 9,000 in February, but again, that helped January because we had to like buy back some of the inventory that we had. Had a couple little like low-key tastings the last couple days or the last weekend, and I think we'll do some more like low-key ones, you know, like just have them on the counter and when people come in instead of like big production kind of a things. We're continuing to work on burgers, bands, and brews. We got hopefully some fun stuff coming in with that one, some new ideas. Aloha Night will be July 14th this year. So make a note of that, so everybody gets on the bandwagon for that one. Our sign's ready, we're just waiting for it to be installed. Continuing to work, we had a good discussion about the exterior sign on top of the building. So hopefully we're getting that moving forward. And that's kind of about all I have for this month. Anybody have any questions?
Well, it's good to see those numbers, the profit margin, certainly.
Did we lose any days this month with snow? Did we have to close any of them?
You know, we closed like an hour early
Yeah, it's-
one day,
One day
a couple
out.
weeks ago, but yeah, it was just an hour early just because it was dark out and it was, and I wouldn't have if it would have been busy, but tracking the sales. It's like we just closed an hour early that day.
There's a couple days
Today it was really
appreciate
blowing.
You guys were there. Not
Oh, yeah.
nice out that side of town.
Yeah.
Are you looking at getting Trey again this year for?
That's why we changed the date actually.
Okay.
He's excited and has some more ideas. So I don't know if you remember, but last year we partnered with Blue Chair Bay and Trey Bradley, is his last name anyways. People loved him, they thought he was great. He brought along a lot of swag and signed Kenny Chesney guitar, and this year I think we're doing a cooler or something that he signed and that kind of stuff, but where he's gonna meet with us in the next couple of weeks, but so, and they're doing some big thing in Iowa, so we thought we felt it was worth changing the date a week ahead to have him be partnering with us, so.
I'd be warmer anyway.
Yeah. Last year it was warm. The year before it was,
Yeah.
we were, yeah.
It's down
The year before it was.
More people in the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was warm yesterday for a few.
Tim, do you feel like your tasting events and your Wine Wednesday events, are they helping pick up a little momentum then?
You know what? When the tasting events used to be like a whole lot more people attended them, I think. Used to be like bigger deals. Now it's like they're not as big of a deal. That's why I think that like if we do like just small impromptu ones, you know, kind of a thing, it's like better. I mean, you know, we had some sale, and then this time, like if they bought the merchandise we were selling or sampling that day, they got a discount. So that helped with a little bit of sales, but they're definitely not like when we had our old ones, like at the old liquor store. It's like we had like a ton of people there, and that's not the trend lately. I don't know why, but.
So the tasting events are kind of random then?
You would
Put that
still,
on your website now?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to put that like on your website?
Like when we do the tastings? Yeah, I'm working with Shelby, I just lost her name, for me to be able to start changing it, because at first she was the only one, and then getting her the information wasn't fast enough, you know? So if I can start changing it myself, then we can keep it more up to date. But, and then I will also do an event page, like on Facebook, for both Burgers, Bands, and Brews, and for like Aloha Night and that kind of thing too.
Date's not set for Burgers, Bands, and Brews, though, is it?
What was
Is
that?
the date set for the?
Yep, June 3rd,
June 3rd?
right? 2nd or 3rd? 3rd?
Do you want to talk about what more we're going to do with that one this
Do we?
year, since it's just brought up?
So this year we're going to do tasting events. Bra Brothers and Painted Prairie Vineyard are both coming to do tastings during the event this year.
During
And-
Burgers, Bands, and Brew, right? During Burgers, Bands, and Brew, they're
Yeah.
doing a tasting?
Yep.
Will they have any of their product then besides the tasting, or?
So we will sell, like, to consumers, like, a few of their, and we were talking about that. We have another meeting on Wednesday, and we're also talking about offering Boxcar Brew at the event this year too, for people to purchase.
The issue is
Like-
you can't, the license wouldn't allow you to sell it there and take it away.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, I
you'd have to
shouldn't have
consume it
said
on site.
purchase, but
Okay.
yeah.
That's the challenge. You know, we had the same issue with Aloha Night last year, couldn't do that either.
But so we can sell, I mean, so we can sell the product to consumers like we did, but not like bottles,
Right.
like not off-sale
Right,
type
right,
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
Are the Brown Brothers bringing their different soda flavors also, or just the alcohol stuff?
We can make them sample the soda
I
stuff.
just asked. I don't
Yeah,
know.
because we have the sodas at the store right now, so.
Okay.
Is the soda's the same thing as the sours?
No, it's actually like soda, like pop soda.
Oh, it is?
Non-alcoholic.
Non-alcoholic, yeah, pop soda. And then we have another hope, haven't finalized another edition that we're hoping to do for, that'll be exciting if that happens, but I don't want to get too far ahead of us.
We get bands?
Secrets.
Nice.
Yes, we're working on the bands. That's the part we're meeting about tomorrow, or Wednesday, rather, to finalize. But I mean, I think the lesson that we learned from Aloha Night from year 1 to year 2, because we got about a 50% increase in attendance from year 1 to year 2. I think the weather helped us, but we added a lot of other value too. You know, we did the raffle, we had the tasting, and then all this other stuff. You know, and I think that added to it. And so we're kind of trying to do the same thing here, where we're adding value to it for the same amount of money, and you know, hopefully that will, you know, make it even bigger. I think we sold something like close to 300 tickets last year to this event, so you know, for Tracy that's pretty big, and I think that, you know, we're trying to get closer to 400 this year, and we'll see. You know, we'll see how it goes, but I know Jeff's working on some sponsorships. He's doing a great job with that, and I think we'll be ahead of last year as well, and so should be good. Pray
Yeah.
for, you know, warm weather, no rain.
I know, right, it was a little chilly last year too, and we still did that well, so that was good.
Yeah.
My whole thing about like Burgers, Bands and Brews and like Aloha Night and even like doing the fire department, you know, that kind of stuff is that we're not just a liquor store, we're part of the community and bringing people together to make the community. So that's the part that we emphasize on, that we're part of the community and we're here for the community. So, anybody
Well,
else?
those are great events. They were fun.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you.
Shane, do you want to go?
He'd love to.
Good evening, everyone. I guess mainly I've been doing a lot of stuff with street projects, getting that ready. It's right around the corner. We're looking at starting center as of right now in the middle of May. Kind of waiting for the road postings to come off, and with little luck we can shut water off and everything will work good there when that project starts. Been chasing after a few easements with the pipelining project that's going along with that. They have that on the agenda here later tonight as far as requests to put that out for bids. But say we think we got most of the pieces together on that. It's one other easement I have to try to obtain for that, and everything should go as planned there, as of right now anyway. So other than that, we've been widening roads. Things are getting pretty hard now. It's kind of hard for us to widen much longer, but the way it looks, the weather might cooperate with us here starting next week. The end of this week looks a little rough again, but I'd say other than that, hopefully spring is here. If you had any questions,
As they're setting up Center Street, how many crossings will there be between east and west during that project?
so they're going to start on the south side right now. The gas company has some gas lines to move, but I think it's like 2.5 or 3 blocks on the north end. So they'll be working on that. So I'm guessing about a third at a time is the way it sounds right now. And as they work north, they'll have at least some temporary crossings, you know, where they kind of came through on the south end. So, you know, you wouldn't expect all of the crossings to be closed at one time or anything like that, but they're well aware of the situation.
Will there be some detours set up?
Yeah, there's actually a whole traffic plan because Center Street is a state aid highway, so they gotta have a full-blown detour, traffic plan for that.
Will they go down Fourth for that, you think, then, or?
Yep, Fourth would be county road, so, yep.
Will the county be in charge of kind of overseeing the top part? Since it's a county road?
Well, our engineer, ISG, is actually doing the consulting on behalf of the county
Okay.
also. It's
They're-
just,
they're
it's
county-
easier to have one consultant instead of having, obviously, they're gonna be involved in the project, and they'll be down here to look at
That's what-
things as it progresses, but, for the contractor, it's easier to answer to one engineer.
The hospital street, is that state? Will there be a crossing there as much as it can be for people to
Much as it
get through
can
there
be.
if they have to?
Yeah, they're gonna have to dig through there, so there's gonna be a point where it's not gonna be accessible, but they still have 4th Street East. You know, there's Hollitt Street that crosses, Elm's a little rough, but, some of those other streets they can still access. I don't think Union and State would be ripped up at the same time. If it is, it's probably gonna be a very short period, but, so yeah, they're well aware, and I brought that up to them, even in the pre-bid meetings, that it's mainly our attachment between the hospital and the ambulance, fire, you know, and I talked to the mailman, and it's gonna be rough, because for a lot of different people, we have our aquatic center on the other side, and so, but,
Will they be relocating the hospital sign? It's just with it being summer with traffic from the lakes and everything.
I think they'll have to. I can bring that up to them, though.
'Cause I don't want people from the lake that are not
Right.
sure where they're going to all of a sudden go down to that hospital sign and then the road's closed.
I do know when we did 4th Street East, we did that, to reroute them, instead of sending them up 4th Street East. So I know we had to do a little bit of detouring there for the hospital, but, I'll make sure I bring that up to them.
Thank you.
So your streets look great.
Oh.
So you can thank all you and your
Yeah.
employees for that.
You guys have done a whale of a job for what you.
I think we're all sick of it now. I don't think there's any person in this room that isn't, so. But,
But did,
Put those snowboards away.
yeah.
I'm assuming,
Easy.
I'm assuming that 6th Street is a puddle like that just because it doesn't have any place to go?
Right, especially down by Roland Street, about a half block north. There's 2 catch basins there, but that second lift isn't on there, so there's really no way to get the water up and over yet. But hopefully in a couple months,
Is that gonna come back to haunt us because the water's ponding there?
it shouldn't, but
Yeah.
in perfect world, no, but
And they're gonna do a little better job of inspecting on that project, right?
yeah, and so far everything that they did, last year, the last 6 blocks, has looked pretty decent, so hopefully the methods they changed there helped, but, can only hope, I guess, at this point. We'll see when the frost comes
See
out,
when the
what
frost
happens.
comes out.
Yep, but there's some areas, we've been watching it pretty close, been kinda watching it all winter, cause there's some areas that got a little rough, even since the frost went in, so. But, time will tell here.
What was going on down on, was it 3rd? And you guys had the pumper truck down there and doing some stuff, I think it's Friday maybe?
East side of town,
Yeah,
we had a frozen storm sewer.
okay.
I worked a few days at that. It was solid ice for about 3/4 of a block, so. But they got it open, so. That one is only 2.5 feet deep, so that ain't the first time we've been there, so.
Okay. I just saw everything.
Some winters we get by and it's fine, and then it gets, froze solid the next, so. But, there's enough salt in there now to keep that from freezing this year, so.
Thank you.
You bet. Yep.
I got a couple other questions. Shane, your report had an item about the trailer park. How many homes are occupied out there right now?
The way it looks, about 9.
There's nine different trailer houses that have people in it?
Occupied, yeah. or it looks like there's activity. Not saying that the neighbors aren't using the neighboring house, but that's what it looked like to me anyway.
Okay, and then also a question about, you gave an update on the hangar situation, the 4 hangars, or will there be some extra funding available for 8 hangars? Do you have an idea when that might become more clear, that issue?
Right.
Eric, you probably know more about that.
The short answer is that we are asking the FAA to approve 8, just in case, because if we have, something comes along and we can do 8, we want to make sure we're approved for it. But we're really kind of anticipating it's going to be 4. I mean, we only have money for 4 at this point. And we budgeted money for 4 this year. It probably won't mostly get spent this year, except for the engineering, because it's going to take that long for the FAA to kind of approve where they go and all this other stuff, a lot of bureaucratic hoops. So I kind of think it's probably going to be 4, you know, unless you as a city council, when we talk during the budget, prioritize some additional money for hangars. But given what I think I know about what's coming up next year, I don't think it's likely we're going to have enough money to do 8.
Okay. Well, I appreciate having that flexibility.
It's just
there.
trying to give ourselves some flexibility just in case.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Who knows, Tyler might find us extra money.
That's right.
Or Val.
Yeah, or better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shane.
Jeffrey?
So there was a gentleman in here walking this morning when I came in and early this morning and I said, how's it going? And he goes, all right. And I said, spring's coming. And he looked at me and said, so is Christmas. And I was going to turn on and just have a little chuckle with him, and he wasn't smiling at all. At all, he wasn't smiling. So there's a lot of people that are sick of that. I'll be back up here in a little bit to talk about that after Eric has a few slides up here. we got a guest here tonight, Jeff Gladys out of UCAP. But one of the things I want to bring up is just a theme on not only what everybody up here has been talking about, but you look at the collaboration that we're having here in Tracy, YMCA with the exercise program, UCAP, United Community Action Partnership. We've got Southwest Housing Partnership here in town, at the annual career fair that we had here in early in March. You've got 30 vendors, but it wasn't just the businesses from around town here. There were a lot of those, but there was from Lyon County, there was from Murray County, there was colleges here, SMSU was here, you had Lyon County Sheriff's Department was here. So it just really kind of shows that we can't do everything on our own here, so we need the collaboration with everybody. So the couple things I said I would bring up again this week, like we did last month. The swimming pool, we're up to, I believe, 16 or 17 employees out there for the summer. We'd like to have closer to 20. So we are looking for a couple of them. We have a couple more names that have possibilities. We do have a manager. We have our assistant managers. We feel we have enough WSI to run the lessons in the mornings, but with the group of kids that we have that are involved in so many things with sports and with churches and with camps and everything else, it's going to take a lot of organization and a lot of just jockeying around just to get everything covered. So, but we did hire 5 14-year-olds to make sure that we have a pipeline for this coming year, and we could probably hire a couple more, but we really couldn't handle any more 14-year-olds. So, with the swimming pool, we're in full swing with that. We're dealing with the Red Cross right now, worrying about all the training that we're going to be having on the 28th, 29th, and 30th of May. That's going to be here before you know it. We got to get rid of the snow first. I had mentioned in my report with the YMCA, with the exercise program that went so well the first few weeks, and then it was 2 hours late school on Monday, and then it was 2 hours late school on Monday, then there was a holiday, and then there was actually, we've missed 4 out of the last 6 because of, as we, you know, YMCA, if the school is late, they don't have the programs. So, and it always seems to be on a Monday, never on a Tuesday, but always on a Monday.
Oh, no, we've missed a few. Thank you very much.
So, but she's disappointed in that piece of it. But even this morning, we had 9 people that came in here, and we hadn't had a class for I don't know how long. So that's good to see. Southwest Partnership, there's nothing really more for me to talk about there. We got through phase 1, and now we're going through another phase right now that we're dealing with them on a few things here in town. They've come up with some ideas with us. There is, and you're going to hear a lot of this from me over the next few years, the amount of groundwork that we are trying to lay right now with all the projects that are going to be going on around here is going to be getting more and more evident with the wind projects, with the XL projects that are going on here. Now we're starting to get phone calls about those projects from, I have a meeting on Wednesday afternoon with a developer out of Minneapolis that wants to know what's going on down here with the wind projects. I don't know what's going to go on with it, but they would like to speak with me for an hour and possibly even come down here and take a look at some things. So that would be another way of collaboration with all of the other, not just of what we have around here. I mean, same thing as what we did with the Pipestone Development Company here, 2 years ago when we finally got some new housing built around here. So, but I'll be coming back up in here in this for a little bit. But anybody else got any questions?
What's our waiting list out at Orchard right now?
9.
9.
Yeah. Now, that's 9 that want to be on the list. Now, when I call them, I don't know, what's going to go on. But we have 2 that are certains right now that are clamoring to get in. But then the rest of them want to be on that list. And so I would say, I would actually leave it at 9.
So do you anticipate an opening soon?
No, we've had such good luck out there. That's way before my time, but the amount of people that we had out there, they were there for 8-9 years. I mean, I believe we have a few of them there now that are going to be there another 9 or 10 years. That's awesome. It saves a lot of work for me to having to find somebody. It's not just finding somebody, they're there, but to get everything transferred in and then get everything fixed in the apartment and get it ready for the new ones, that's where it becomes or a landlord, that's where it becomes a kind of a pain. And we're kind of blessed out there for the fact that we have longevity.
Jeff, what's the EDA's feeling as far as whether there'd potentially be demand to fill another fourplex out in the Orchard Lane development?
Yes, and yes. Now we got to find somebody that will help us build it. And I really do believe we're making headway on getting somebody to help us build it. It does come down to a little bit, we want to take advantage of everything that's going to be going on over here in the next 6 years. And if we can get a few of those things built right now, not just a fourplex out there, but some housing and maybe in an apartment building.
Good. Any interest in any other lots for the spring for building?
Couple that, one of them that we're working on right now, they would actually like to buy the lot to build a house. Yep. We're just working on it now. It just depends on where that is at. That'll all go through you before anything happens, obviously, but it's yes, we do have interest.
Good.
It's came down a little bit, but it's still quite expensive to build right now, but.
Is it gonna be any cheaper?
So, yeah. Well,
It is what it is.
It is what it is, yeah. Anything else I can answer for you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's my turn.
Yes, your turn.
My report is fairly straightforward. I did want to broach another issue with the council because I think it's important to bring up. Late afternoon, I got an email. Actually, George was copied on it as well because it was regarding community ed. I'm on the community ed board, as is George on the community ed board. And Bill Tower sent an email out saying that JO Volleyball was going to make a request to be a part of community ed be offered through community ed. And what that would mean for us is that the school could theoretically book the VMC for their tournaments as well as the volleyball practices. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up to you is because 2 years ago, I can't believe it's been 2 years, and two of you weren't here then. 2 years ago, you might recall that JO Volleyball came to us and said, hey, we'd like to be able to use the facility for free. At that time, you decided to tell them no, they couldn't do that. And now, you know, there's this other approach that they're looking at doing. I kind of feel like it certainly isn't my decision to make on something like that. It isn't really our decision anyway. Ultimately, it's community ed's decision. But at the end of the day, I think they're interested in your opinion. And so I wanted to just bring it up for a discussion and, you know, see how you felt about it. You know, one way or the other.
I gave this some thought, and I believe the more we can use this building, the better. And if they can run it through the school to get under whatever insurances we need and whatnot, I think it's good for the community to have more tournaments in town to bring a little bit more business downtown if possible. So I guess I myself would be in favor of it.
What season are they working with then?
It's like a spring, summer kind of thing, I believe, yeah. Yeah, and I don't know exactly what it would entail in terms of the totals. You know, part of the issue is the next couple of years is a lot of the school facilities won't be available. And I think that might be part of the urgency of the issue. One of the things that I want you to consider, and this is something we really need to start thinking about a lot, you have asked us to utilize the facility more, and we are. That has a significant impact on our ability to maintain the facility. We are already struggling to keep up. You know, Jeremy doesn't just handle this building, and you heard what Tyler said earlier. You know, he handles all the other buildings too. And some of them not as well as others, honestly. And I get feedback on a regular basis from people about different things, like, well, you know, can't we get this cleaned up or something like that? And I unfortunately have to tell people that, gosh, you know, I mean, we're doing the best we can, but, you know, we have limited resources. It's like one person taking care of like 5 buildings. You know, it's difficult. And I'm not suggesting by any means that you shouldn't do this. I just want you to understand that as we continue to use the VMC, and if there's a new community center in particular, it's going to really put a strain on a lot of these resources. Something to think about for the future.
That was my thought, is like, if they're gonna be over there through the school, that means that's all dumped on Jeremy again.
Well, and if it's
Well,
spring, summer for the next 2 spring, summers, they'll have to coordinate with the school because the school's gonna be using for their summer programs that same space and such for the next couple of
and possibly we could work something with the school. If they're gonna use it more, then they need to come over and help a little more.
Yeah.
Another thing I've thought of, and it's all comes down to labor, whether the city furnishes it or you hire somebody still has to pay for the labor. So the stuff out at Orchard Lane, let's get back to renting that out or what they were doing before, hiring somebody else to do it on bids. Because it still comes down to labor, whether the city's paying for the labor or Joe Blow is doing the cutting or Mrs. Jones. It comes down to that dollar amount. Maybe it costs a little more to have somebody else cut the grass and move the snow, but it eases up our pressure on the city workers that are already taxed.
I think it would be good for us to know exactly how Jeremy spends a lot of his time. I do know that Shane and his group have been primarily doing the snow removal out there. That I can tell you. So that's not taxing on Jeremy. I think Jeremy at one point had kind of trying to keep a little bit of a log of the things that he was doing, you know, in terms of helping out with the tournaments and stuff like that. And we can ask the school for some more help. I mean, the current lease goes through 2028. But I think it is an important point that if you're going to add additional community ed programs, like we already amended the East to do that, maybe it would be reasonable to ask for some additional custodial help.
I agree.
And that goes with almost any place that there's usually some janitorial
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
There's usually a fee that's associated with that extra usage. I don't think that would be uncommon for us to
Yeah.
at least get that out of it.
That's from an impact on the city operations, that's something that I want you to understand, you know, is that's an issue. So,
I've been doing some thinking on that, because I've been concerned about Jeremy too, getting overworked, and then I wouldn't want to lose him, because we already know he's a good worker.
yep.
And he has helped set up my class every Tuesday and Thursday morning. I do appreciate that. But what I was thinking of, for all of the bigger events that come into the gym, if they're going to do JOs and they've done the kids wrestling and other tournaments, what if we had a small core of people that maybe are retired or whatever, that would be trustworthy, and hire them as casual or whatever, and use them for those big events. Obviously, it'd be paid, but it wouldn't be benefits or anything, because it would be, I don't know if that's the right term, casual, but as needed.
There's a financial impact to that. You know, one of the things that I'll remind the council, of course, is that we eliminated a halftime custodial position last year. So that's one of the reasons this, and public works person who would do things like help with the snow and mowing and stuff like that. Now, we did add an additional seasonal person in public works at the same time, so they've got more seasonal help now. So, but I mean, it wouldn't be that much, but it would be a financial impact to that. I don't know how much, but it could. That's a good idea. It's just keep that in mind. Is all I'm saying.
Okay, so I had a thought about that at the wrestling tournament last weekend. So whether it be wrestling or JOs, could they have somebody, you know how they have volunteers that work in the concession stand and that kind of stuff, of like the parents or ex people? Why can they, like, I know you're like dying to kill me for this one, aren't you?
I think this.
So that they would go through and like.
The workers
maybe have
clean
to-
everything up. They have the.
No, I'm not talking
Let
about.
me
I'm not talking about like cleaning that up, but I'm just like, if somebody periodically went through and like dumped the garbage in the bathrooms or something.
I think that's a good idea, and I think I think they do. People do from the tournaments and stuff. They do. I think the person to ask about how effective that is probably Jeremy. Rather than us speculating on it. I also think that part of the issue is that we've had some kind of special circumstances, where Jeremy had to be called in, and so volunteers and the workers at the tournament, the volunteers at the tournament aren't going to probably want to handle that.
Oh, they can't do that.
And so that's a separate issue. So, I think in general, potentially, one of the things that we haven't done in the city that other cities, communities have done is created a volunteer program in general. A lot of communities try to, increase their capacity to do different things, by calling on volunteers to, it takes somebody to coordinate that a little bit, but, maybe there's some things that we could get people to do. I'm even familiar with cities that do a program like a snowbuster program, where they might have people that volunteer to shovel someone's yard or the sidewalk of snow who might not be able to do it, or maybe some nuisance code issues where you would go help them mow their lawn or paint their house or something, stuff like that. And it could be for these kinds of things as well. But that's another option, I guess you could say, is to try to call on more volunteers.
Well, if the school is using it more, let's ask them to get the list for volunteers.
Either the list of volunteers, but really, if the school is going to be coming in this summer, for the next 2 summers.
Next 2 summers, yeah. We don't know under what conditions, and they have told us that they would do additional custodial work for that.
That's what I was going to ask, because then their full-time employees, what are they gonna do? Maybe they can bring with them.
I don't think we know the answer to that question, what exactly they're gonna do, but I think there will be some assistance with that the next 2 summers, yes.
Well, obviously, Bill Tower's the one that brought this to us,
Yep.
asking for our input. So obviously, he's willing to work with us, with the community ed and us.
I would guess.
I think we need to go back to him. I don't know if it's a little small group, I mean, you're on
Here's what I would
the
suggest.
committee already.
We have the reason why he's probably bringing it up right now is because there is a community ed meeting next week, and I'll be there, and
April 4th.
And so JO Volleyball at that time is gonna ask, can we be part of community ed? And I think that what I hear people saying, and correct me if I'm wrong here, George, because, we'll both be there, what I hear you saying is that people are generally okay with that, but we'd like some additional custodial help for it. That's what I hear you saying. And if that's the case, then I think that we can send that message, when we have that conversation with them next week.
And
If that's
mention
okay.
Diane's name.
Whether it's custodial help or if it's some additional revenues to cover the city's added expenses. That's what we've got to work toward. And we had this conversation 2 years ago, and we kind of agreed that we can't continue to waive everyone's fee for the use of that facility because there are hard expenses to city taxpayers for the use of that facility. And city taxpayers are a different entity than the school district. We certainly want to cooperate with the school district. And I agree with George 100%. It'd be great to have the JO tournaments and the practices down here. And I think we can go halfway to try and accommodate community education and JO volleyball, if that's what they're proposing. But we're not going to be able to work out those details tonight, and so I think that's an excellent idea. If Eric and George have some direction now of what we want to do, and to meet with community ed next week and see what can be worked out.
Well,
and
personally,
I think you also need to get the input from Jeremy as to what has been done and what helps and everything. So then you can go and use it as an example. After the wrestling tournaments, they clean up all the garbage. They fold the bleachers back up. I don't know what you all do, but
There's I will tell you that there's different views on that.
And that's fine, but one of the views is Jeremy's.
I know, and that's the one that's not being heard right now, and I want to make sure Jeremy has that opportunity.
That's why I suggested you talk to him, get feedback from him.
I will absolutely do that, and I have not talked to him about this JO volleyball thing, so sorry, Jeremy, if you're listening, I didn't mean to surprise you, but I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate you listening to that too, because I've had several conversations with Jeremy. It sounds like Jan has too, where he's like, oh geez, this is a lot, that you're asking.
Well, and he is a full-time employee.
Yeah.
So his hours are limited.
Yes.
And I don't know that we want to get into a ton of overtime if we're talking about,
No, we try not to do that.
So it may be that.
Well, if you're
we need to step back on this whole thing and find out what they want.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're not gonna make the decision. We're gonna get the information, bring it back to the council, then we can talk about it. Right now, we're just speculating, and that's doing no good.
We are, but I will tell you this, and I'm gonna ask you this question because I think we've got direction to talk about this issue next week, but do you, in my personal experience, in 20 years of local government, when we go out and we are part of other community organizations, whether it be Wheels Across the Prairie or something else, to a certain extent, we're there as ourselves, but we're also there kind of representing the city and representing the city council, right? And so the reason why I want to bring this forward tonight, it's fresh, and I thought, well, it deserves a council discussion because you discussed with Gio before. Do you like having these kinds of discussions about these kinds of things ahead of time so we kind of all get on the same page? Was this a good approach
Yeah,
tonight?
I would like to have the right information before we start speculating on our discussion. That's what I would like. It's good discussion, I'm not arguing that, but we need to have the right information before we go saying, well, this or this or this.
All we know is that the JO volleyball wants to use the space. And do we like that idea or not? That's the question.
I think it'll be a little bit of both. If the timing is right, that you can take kind of a temperature of the council
Yeah.
to see a direction, then I
Yeah.
think that's good.
Yeah.
If we don't have a council meeting and you're meeting,
Right.
you can bring us more information, that'd be much more helpful.
Yes, yeah.
But I would prefer to be able to give at least a direction rather than lead somebody the wrong way and think that, oh, well, I'll just go ahead and go along with it, you know.
Absolutely. And the worst thing that can happen sometimes is somebody makes a decision and all of a sudden gets bitten off when you come back because it was the decision that people didn't want either, you know. I mean, that's
I
also
don't know
one
that
of the reasons.
we're expecting you to have a finalized agreement,
Of course
because
not.
as George said, you'd still have to come back, and then we'd have the information to be able to make the
It
decision.
gives them a little bit of walking information.
I want to be clear about something though. The agreement, if JO Volleyball did it through community ed, the agreement would allow it, whether you want it or not. That's what I'm telling you.
But at what price?
For free.
Their agreement.
And so when you say we're either going to be supportive of this or oppose this, it's not so much that they can't do it. It's that, you know, you're kind of expressing your, willingness to,
But Bill Tower knows that. That's why he brought it forward.
I know that.
He knows
I
this is.
know that. I know that, Jerry. I know that, Jerry. And that's why I bring it to you tonight, for that same reason. I'm smart enough to read between those lines. I get that. I just wanted Jan to understand that that's what the situation is. We're not going to decide. The community ed board will decide. And we're on the community ed board, and so we're going to tell them how the city council feels about it. But we don't, it's an advisory board, but they want to know what our feeling is. And so our
Because
feeling
this
is
could
we
become-
want to do it, but we'd like to get some custodial help. And that's what I hear,
Because this
right?
could be a slippery slope, everything wanting to go under the umbrella of community ed.
That's one of my other concerns is that, okay, well, where does that stop?
Yes.
And
that's where I
Yeah.
think it's a good conversation,
Yeah.
and obviously,
yeah.
community ed thinks we need to have this conversation for probably the same reason.
Yep. And we've been doing some other things with them too, I mean, I know Val expanded kind of the art programming at the library through community ed last year. So I love expanding community ed. I mean, I think it's a great thing overall, to offer more programs around town. We just have to be cognizant of what does that mean for us, Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a good discussion. Okay. Unless you have any questions, my report. Okay, small cities grant application. I'll go through this as quickly as possible. It won't be that long. This is a little bit different than the last one we did. We're still going to have the usual program we do with homeowner rehab, but we are requesting to add additional commercial properties. So this is a bigger grant that includes homes and commercial properties. A little bit different than in the past. The homeowner occupied projects can be throughout the city, also different than it was in the past. It used to be just a specific area, and the commercial properties, however, will be limited just to a downtown space. And I'm going to let Jeff and UCAP talk about that a little bit, because this is part of this blight and resolution. You're going to see at a public hearing in a couple of weeks, and I know you're going to want to ask some questions about what that means. The homeowner projects are about 25,000 a piece. Pretty similar to what we've done in the past, where you've got basically a grant, but it's really kind of a deferred loan. So if you stay in it long enough, you can get 100% of it forgiven, but if you come out of the house earlier, you have to pay some of that back over a 10-year period.
10 years.
Yep. The commercial projects, about 12 at $40,000 a piece. What we would be asking for is a 20% match from the business, about $8,000. They would then get $32,000 through the program. They would have 7 years after 7 years, they could have 87.5% of that forgiven. I know that's that's not a round number, but that's what it is. So they could have 87.5% of that $32,000 forgiven. 12.5% of that is money, there would be a loan that would be paid back to the city. So basically, we would put in 12.5%, they would put in a 12.5% loan that would come back to us, $8,000 of their own money, and the remainder of it, essentially the remainder, I can't do that math that quickly in my head, I should have had this on this sheet, but essentially what it boils down to is that downtown businesses can get a $40,000 project for a $17,000 investment. That's what it amounts to. $8,000 of their money and a $9,000 loan, if they stay in the property for 7 years.
What would happen if, say, a downtown business needs some tuck pointing that costs more than 40,000?
I think that's a good question to ask these guys in terms of how we would handle that. So hold that thought. That's a good question. So here's what we have to, well, not all of it is us, but some of it is us. So this is a $1.4 million project, but there's a $320,000 match. So we only get about $1.1 million in actual grant. Some of that's going to be a city contribution. That's $98,000 roughly. That's coming from the CDBG fund. $20,000 is to cover
Excuse me, what's the CD?
the Community Development Block Grant Fund. This is the revolving loan fund that we have now that we're using for the small
That
cities
you've
grant.
recovered some monies back that you still can work with?
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's correct. And $20,000 is going to be administrative fees that go back to UCAP that we're going to pay directly. $70,000 in loans, and that's money that comes back to the city. So of that $98,000, $70,000 plus interest is going to come back to us. And $8,000 to UCAP for just writing the grant. So if we don't get the grant, we're out of pocket on the 8. That is already in the 2023 budget. You approve that with the 2023 budget, so that $8,000 is already spent. Of the rest of that $320,000, about $96,000 comes from that, the match from the business owners themselves. And the remainder of the match is going to come from a variety of sources, UCAP, USDA, other sources of about $124,000. In reality, the city's out about $28,000. $70,000 of it's coming back. That's what it boils down to. A $28,000 investment is a pretty darn good deal for $1.4 million. It doesn't get much better than that, actually. So this is a really good deal if we can get it. So our next steps are, City Council is going to have a public hearing on April 10th on the slum and blight. UCAP will complete the application for the second round of funding because we are already approved through the first round. It's kind of a pre-application process. And then the second round is more serious. They kick out the less serious ones. Projects could begin as early as 2024. We could get approved by the end of the year, maybe start the process by the end of the year, potentially. But I don't like to overpromise and underdeliver, so it's probably 2024. But that would be pretty fast, since we just finished up the last one last year. So, the takeaways are, small amount of city investment for a huge return. Includes commercial properties, which is one of your priorities, and the EDA's priorities, for downtown. That is additive this time, and that's an interesting thing that hasn't been done before here, and we'll be applying here soon. And so, unless you have any questions for me on the details, Jeff and Jeff are going to come up and talk and answer some of your specific, maybe technical questions about this. There'll be another bite at the apple on this. There's no decisions that we're asking you to do tonight. This is just informational because this is such a big deal when you're talking about a lot of money. We wanted to make sure we gave you information ahead of time so you can kind of, absorb it a little bit.
Do we have to publicize that public hearing?
Yes, we do. And we'll be publishing the paper the next 2 weeks. Yep.
10 days beforehand. We have to have it in there. So we'll put it in there on Wednesdays and then the following Wednesday also.
I didn't know if you needed the council to set that public.
No, we
hearing.
don't. No, we
You guys
don't.
just-
Yep,
Yep.
we're good with that. As long as, unless you tell us you don't want to do the public hearing, but no, we're okay.
And I'm going to let Jeff come up here right away, but it's just that where I've had the benefit over the past couple of years or year and a half is being able to see, it's a lot of times it's confidential with the names of who's applied for some of the homeowners, the grants and that type of thing. But the ones that got loans from us, I've been able to deliver payment books and like that type of thing to them and help them, and get them to help them sign the paperwork and everything. So I've gotten firsthand look at what we've done or what UKEP has done with these houses. And in some cases, these houses have been saved by this project because they'll put in some more money of their own. It's not only saving it for the current residents, but it's for the residents in, the next resident that's going to buy that house. So, we talk about the amount of money that's going to come out of our pockets here. I mean, we more than make that up with just what we bring back in when somebody sells their house a little bit early. And, in the last 4 years, I would bet we've gotten 6 times that we've gotten anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 or $6,000. In fact, we're going to be getting one here in the next 3 months. That's going to be a large sum of money because it's the sale of the house. They did such a good job with the house. They put so much time and work into that house that the house is going to sell for, well, if it sells for what it's for sale for right now, it's going to be $50,000 more than they paid for it.
I've had some people that have taken advantage of this program, and they thank the city for helping get it going.
That's where, George, I get invited into the house going, come in, look what they did. Come in, look what they did.
I didn't get any cookies out of the deal, but.
I did.
But no, some of the residents that have had this done really appreciate that working with them.
Yep.
Helping them out.
Yeah, and Jeff is the one that's the administrator of it, but another person that really helps out is Yenny's her name, and she does he's always there to answer my questions from UCAP. And then also there's a kid named Darren that I don't know if he's going to be running the project this time. I would like him to because he was freaking fantastic. Every time I needed something, he was there. Anytime anybody in the houses needed something, he was always there for them. So that whole collaboration thing. So.
All right.
Well, that was my plug on getting Darren back.
That's okay, but sad news is that Darren is going back into construction, so it won't be Darren. Tried to talk him out of it, but that's all right. We got a couple more guys that we can bring down here. So those of you that don't know me, Jeff Gladys, I'm a Tracy grad, year class of 81. I've been working with small cities for 30 years. So I was started back on them in 1990, or 92, somewhere in there. And this is probably the 7th application we put in for Tracy. I'm guessing that, 6 to 8, somewhere in there. Making the second round is a big deal because our odds are pretty good that this thing will go. I do have to tweak a couple things because the information that will go on the splits, I just want to fill you in on some more things because I work with this program all the time. You guys work with it occasionally. The reason I wanted to talk a little bit tonight too is on your public hearing. I can't be there that night because I'm at another public hearing, and you guys are you went through a bunch of these. I'll have Jeff prep for it, and if I can get one of my other inspectors here, I'll get them here too to take that one because I'm going to be with a community that's never had one before, so I'm going to be at their city council meeting that night, so I thought I'd come tonight to do this. One thing, just to tweak some of the numbers just a little bit, and this is probably my fault for not having this. Actually, what will happen is $40,000 is what comes through the commercial side of the grant, okay? And then that $40,000 is split into, there's a reason for the 87.5 and the 12.5, but we don't need, but just know that, so actually $35,000 we'll forgive over 7 years. $5,000 will come back to the city of Tracy. The owners will come up with $10,000. Okay, so on a $50,000 project, you can access maximum of $40,000. That's the most that we can pull out of small cities. Okay, but just to make this even a little better than what Eric had brought up, if we are given the 12 grants on the commercial side, and you guys have that $28,000 in there, you're actually going to have $60,000 come back into the city that you didn't have to start this thing. So you actually, if this all goes through, you'll be 32,000 to the plus from this, okay? So we'll worry about those numbers if it's funded at 12, because part of the thing with these grants is the main part of the grant is that it's based towards low to moderate income folks, okay? 70% of the funds that come from Department of Employment and Economic Development, so I'm just going to call that DEED, has to go to low to moderate income. 30% can go to commercial. So there's a chance that our commercial side of this could get tweaked, okay? But we're going to ask for what we think we can spend. They may tweak this. It all depends on how the other ones come in, because when they look at their grants all across the state, they have to keep that 70-30 split. So if they ever have to alternate on commercial, usually what they do is they'll take a few away from each community if they have to get down to that. So, but we'll see what happens with that. But as we had on the slides here, that is a 7-year on the commercial side, and on the homeowner it's been 10. We have to have a certain number of years through deed, and that's where usually those are community sets. So like on the commercial side, you actually could have those forgive 5 to 7 years. So usually they went a little longer term, so there's more buy-in to the community. Same with on the owner-occupied, you have to have it 7 to 10 years, and Tracy has always been, well, not always, some in the earlier ones we had shorter terms, but we went to longer terms, so there's a little more community buy-in on it. And like Eric was talking, on the owner-occupied side, 1/10 will forgive every year, so they get a credit for every year they're in there. Some programs don't do that. So if they're in there 5 years and they borrow $25,000, $12,500 to forgive. If they sell that property, $12,500 comes back to the city, and then you have to use it back to the same purpose. Okay. Same on the commercial side. They get a yearly forgiveness, so they have to hit their anniversary date on that. As Eric said, the owner side is citywide. That's a change. That's a big change that happened after you guys received this last grant. Because of all the grants I've ever done in Tracy, and I was your inspector for half of them, we always had a targeted area on the owner-occupied side. And what it always did is it left certain areas, like out by the school, out. And areas where you had a few houses but more blocks were never eligible because we couldn't get that density that they wanted. So I've been a pretty big proponent of arguing against a target area for communities under, that are over 1,000 people. So we finally got it to 5,000, so now that we can go citywide. And that showed with your surveys. You had 111 folks that are interested that meet, according to the surveys, low to moderate income guidelines that are interested in the program. That's a big number. We only got 20 projects we're applying for. That's the most we can apply for. There's limits to how much you can apply for in commercial and on residential. So we're applying for as many as that we can basically get in their budget on the owner-occupied side. Yeah.
If by chance you say 12 commercial, we only get 7 commercial, can we use the rest of that money for homes?
They limit you to, on the owner-occupied side, the maximum we can get is $600,000. So what you'll see is they pay the administration to my agency too, besides what you guys are putting in. So there will be a $500,000 that we go after. There will be $75,000 of administration that comes to that on that side. So we don't have room to do another project there. The thing that we look at doing is that if there's funds that come back, you guys have that loan program that you do loan some of those monies back out to people that are eligible for that, and they can come back in, or you just keep this going. One of the things that Tracy has going for it is
you guys have always been really active in your grants. When I have active city people in grants, these things go. So the work that Jeff does, the work that Bob Gervais did before Jeff, those moved these grants. And when we just closed out this last one, we were over, our matching requirements were more than we estimated. We did the projects we said we were going to do. We sent a small amount, like $7,000 back, but we had a late dropout in the program. So we had some that we couldn't, like 7,000 that we didn't spend. But so Tracy has always had successful grants. Every one of these, we've met our goals, and we've closed at least the amount of projects we said we were going to do, and usually more. So the one thing we'll have is if we don't average $25,000 a house, we'll do additional. Now that $25,000, what's different with this grant too is what we're finding is that the folks that we really want to hit the most can't come up with any match at all. And so on the recommendation of DEED, they said, we don't want you to require homeowners to come up with a match. Okay? So this time around, first time in Tracy, it's a straight 100%, you could do $25,000 repairing your house without coming up with any matching funds on the low to moderate income side. Now, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
You saw my question. I didn't even raise my hand.
Yeah.
I mean, do you get more strict on the underwriting of it for the repayment, or?
Nope, it'll still be, well, we've got that, we're at that 10-year buy-in to it, so they're saying they're gonna be an active household in Tracy for 10 years. And so, that's their commitment to getting that $25,000. Now, what we're gonna see is most of these houses will not stop at 25. These projects are going to be $35,000 a piece, for the most part. Material prices have jumped a bunch, but where does that other money come from? That's where it comes from. Those numbers, resources that Eric had up on there. It could be, we'll have one or two projects that might be use USDA funds. An elderly person that hasn't ever used their $7,500 allotment. UCAP will come in with our weatherization program, and usually about 25% of the households that participate in the grant are eligible for our weatherization program. So we come in and we do that in conjunction with that work, and so that will help meet some of those other costs too. We also run Minnesota Housing Finance Agency rehab loan program. So if we have a big project, and we had some big projects in this last grant, if they're eligible for MHFA, that's when we bring in another program that we've got significant amount of money to come in. And that is on the owner-occupied side, okay? And then Tracy has their loan program that you guys have done, which works great. For those folks that don't meet the income guidelines of those other programs, they can afford to pay a loan back, but and you guys make that available to them. That's a great resource. That's one of the best things the community do. Are you pretty successful with getting all the dollars back?
Yes.
Yes. So it's rotating, and it's just a huge resource for us. So we don't lose folks that might otherwise not participate. They can afford. It's kind of like that person that can afford a house payment, but they can't afford the down payment. So they end up in a rental situation, and that just goes on and on. That happens here too with rehab. Is sometimes people can't go to the bank and get that loan, but they can go to the city of Tracy, and you guys will babysit them, or you'll take care of that bank portion of it, and you're able to work with some folks that might not be able to get that loan. Especially after the housing crash, the tightening of all that stuff. It's not, you just don't go into the bank anymore and they say, oh yeah, here's some money for you, So that is a really key component when you guys offer up that 70,000 and rotating, and that also scores well on the grant. So we're going to have a pretty good chance on this grant.
So if we would get this grant, and it's the $25,000, there's not going to be a requirement for a match, I would assume we would get quite a few applications. How do you prioritize, or how do you decide who gets those?
First come, first serve. However, when we surveyed, we survey twice throughout the whole community. Everybody gets 2 chances to fill out this survey. And on that survey, it says if you fill out the survey and you're interested and you sign this, we're putting you on a list. And that list that we have, those 111 names, they get the first shot for 60 days of the grant being open. And that's perfectly fine to do it. It's a way that we get survey responses, because if you don't get a good survey response, you're not going to get the grant. That is the single most important thing with these grants, is surveys and interests and showing that. And 111, that being able to go citywide in Tracy, that's why you got that 111. You know, I'm like looking at my other 2 communities. One's 1,000 people. I think we got 54, so that was pretty good. And the other one's 500 people, and we have 30 some. So it's a really strong response number. When they graded the grant application, Tracy was graded competitive. They rate them either competitively, marginally competitive, or not competitive. And then the non-competitive grants they aren't invited back. But so Tracy's sitting in a really good spot right now, because it was graded competitive right off the bat. And the thing you look at it, your low to moderate income rates in town, you're over 50% for low to moderate income households in town, which a lot of small communities are that. You know, I mean, they hit that 50% number. So there will be, generally we don't fill the owner occupied side in the first 60 days. So most people, but then generally we don't have 111 on that list either. So we'll see how that goes.
And generally, there's a match.
Yes. So it should go fast. Your thing you have to do is part of the grant application, and we just closed, Tracy, and Eric and Jeff wanted to go back in, and I was like, I'm not so sure we're going to be competitive, because generally just closing and coming right back in with another one, you know, sometimes that might be one that says, you can wait a year before you come back in. So to have it come back competitive with the number of surveys and stuff you had it, you know, but part of it now is they're wondering how, as a community, you keep just building the momentum and so forth. And I think Tracy has done a really good job with that over the last 10 years or so, where, you know, you're continually looking, you're talking housing tonight, you know, that's one of the things they want to know about, you know, what are you doing, you know, to help the community yourself, and you guys are willing to invest in Tracy, so that is another. So these funds, like when I talk about these $70,000 that you guys put up for the loan funds, even though those are funds that have channeled back through Tracy through small cities, you're active in it, you're getting them out there. That looks good with deed, and then you're also Jeff's work with the grant, how active he is, and how he gets out and sells his program too. They know that, because some cities don't do that, and you can tell it in the numbers when you can. So with Tracy always running these grants that are filling up and are closing in time and are meeting their goals, you're always going to be a pretty strong application. And then, like I said, when you look at that low to moderate income rate of 50%, that's a target, you know, for deed. And there's cities that are higher and some that are lower, you know. But Tracy always delivering successful grants is a big deal with them, because they don't want money to come back. Okay, they want this 1.4 million to get spent, and they don't want any of it back. Okay, because that just makes it harder for them.
Spend as much as you can.
Yeah.
So
Wasn't that the reason we had to give $7,000 back? It wasn't time enough to get another one into the
yeah, we had a
and then
late
backed out and
back out. from an applicant. And so what we did was actually more than 7,000 originally, but we were able to get some of that money spent on some other households that hadn't hit their match. So we didn't have to send back a whole project, we had just had to send back a partial.
There's
Yes.
a few homeowners in town that are purchasing their home on contract for deed. Would they qualify? Would they have qualified?
The contract for deed vendor also has to qualify, and they have to be willing to sign the repayment agreement. And when I say repayment agreement, it's a deferred, but yeah, they would be, but it's hard because many times, if you have, where we see that happen is usually if a family member is selling it to another family member, you might hit that, but contract for deeds are tough.
Okay.
And no trusts
The vendor would have to qualify
for the program.
income-wise.
Yep,
as
income-wise, yep.
Okay, as moderate to low.
Yep, they have to hit that. And when I talk LMI, it's 80% of area median income. So, just so if I look, that would be, I'm sure I got some information in here somewhere. Family of 4, 66,900. So that's
That's the 80%.
That's 80% area median income. So,
They call that as gross?
yeah, it's off gross. And if there's self-employment, there's different things they go to, but I let Yanni worry about that because I would just tell you the wrong way to figure that out. She's the one that works with that, so.
Yes.
Yeah, I try not to do that. That's one thing with being getting a little more seasoned. I try not to do that anymore. So one of the things, let's see, that I also wanted to talk about is just, I talked about UCAP's involvement with Tracy. Seth, you've been involved with us through the paper for years and that too, so you're quite aware of that too. But the other thing is you have UCAP in your community every day. You got the Head Start program right over here. You got energy assistance that's coming in for your utility programs. You got our weatherization program that's coming in here. We have homeless programs that we work with. We have food shelves that we manage and so forth. And so we're a partner with you guys too. When Jeff was talking about a collaboration and stuff, we're here every day in Tracy. So it's, and that's the nice thing about working with the Community Action Agency is we're able to bring those weatherization funds with us and those Minnesota Housing Finance Agency funds, which makes it a lot easier for your homeowners. I talked about Jeff and Tracy working with the community. One thing we'll have to do, and there will be a little bit on your commercial side, is State Historic Preservation Office. We do have to send every project through them. So we send them just a little thing that says, here's what they want to do to the building. Is it okay? And SHPO, okay, I'm going to use another acronym. So the Preservation Office will send back a letter that says, no, there's nothing on that building that we aren't going to limit anyone. But they might have a few buildings that they say, yeah, we're interested. The bank. That one's going to be of interest to the Preservation Office. And what that will be is they'll tell us what we can and can't use for materials. Tuck pointing, if they want to do tuck pointing, that you have to tell them kind of tuck pointing and the color and all that good stuff. So owner-occupied side, we aren't going to see that, but there's a couple buildings down here that SHPO might be interested in. We'll see. The bank, they will be. I can pretty much guarantee that, but I wouldn't say 100% for sure. So Jeff didn't say 100%, but they will be interested in that
100%. That building's on the national.
Is it on the register? Then it will be. Yeah.
The other thing, and I don't know if you know this or not, but just to remind the council, we did a historic survey of all the buildings downtown in cooperation with New History. My guess is that might be useful to work with business owners on, which ones are on those lists and which one, because they kind of identified what they referred to as buildings that were contributing to a potential historic status. And so we kind of know, based on that survey that was already done, which ones those might be.
And so we should probably maybe get a little bit ahead of that so people kind of know.
Do you guys have a historical society in town that works?
We don't have a historical society that does that. We've been kind of running that program through the city. I would probably want to bring in our consultant new history in on this a little bit maybe, but we could at least look at the study that they did about a year and a half ago.
And we'd be interested, like some communities have their own like town historian. About someone who.
Well, Seth's our town historian.
Well, I tell you what, we're just starting at Grant and Jackson right now, and they have a historic downtown.
Yeah.
And having that person that knows where to find the information about those buildings is a big deal. And when I worked in Pipestone on that one, that's a historic downtown. If we know that person that we can talk to that might be able to tell us where we can find out who built that building, they'll want to know who built it, all kinds of stuff. So that is always good to know. So if this comes true for fruition, we know that we can hound Seth a little bit and see who we.
Seth and his backup onto the wheels.
Can I ask a question just about that? If you've got a situation where there's a building that has potential historic significance, SHPO says it might be, do they want to require them to do specific things to maintain that historic character, even if it's not on the National Register?
They can, if they're interested in it, because it's federal monies, they can. So if someone is not on the register, but SHPO says this building, and sometimes it's not the building that you expect. It's not the pretty one. It might be something else that had a governor's family live there or something like that. It can be, sometimes you get one of those letters and you're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. But usually it's the buildings like the bank. But if it's not on the register and they're interested in it, they can. And there's some things you can do with it too. So
do they, if they're on that register like we're thinking they are they able to get more money then?
not through the grant. We're limited on the grant side. On commercial, it's a lot tougher. They would have to do their own application with Historical Society and stuff.
There's other monies potentially that they could access. They've got to restore, and I'll just put a little bit of a plug to this, but they've got to restore the historic tax credit. Because interestingly enough, for the old bank, if they get this restored, and it looks like that's going to happen in the state legislature this year, if they get that restored, theoretically, they could, the old bank could get a tax credit for some of those, monies that they're putting into that project because it's on the National Historic Register. So it might, there might be some other sources, yes.
Yeah, and the one thing too is, sometimes, like what we ran into in Redwood Falls, is when they looked at their project, it got too big, because you can, $40,000, $50,000, you can spend that on a roof right now. Yeah. So if someone needs a roof, it's a really good time to do it, is with small cities, because Historical Society isn't going to care about that. As long as you aren't going over the parapet wall or anything, it's, you're just gonna tell them what you're putting on for a roof, and they're generally gonna. So you kind of pick and choose what you want to do, because sometimes you can't do. Well, a lot of times you can't do everything the buildings need. So, but that's the inspectors can work with the building owners on and stuff. One thing, I put in here eligible repairs. On the owner-occupied side, there's a lot more eligible repairs: siding, windows, doors, roofs, furnaces, electrical systems, so forth. Those are eligible. Non-eligible things would be flooring, unless it's an accessibility issue, cupboards, detached garages, additions, things like that. Okay, so there are some things that we can't do with this money. On the commercial side, it's a lot trickier. And we're trying to get some clarification from DEED on some of the commercial repairs, because commercial repairs that we've been doing for 30 years, they're now saying they're not sure if they're eligible. So now it's roofs, storefronts, signage on a storefront, storefront doors and windows. But insulation activities, we could do accessibility. Insulation, we can only do if it's tied to another repair we're doing. And that one I'm fighting with them on, so,
Will we have another one of these?
Yeah.
You're bringing some of this out?
Yep, we would do, once the grant's awarded, we'd do a town meeting, so.
Yeah.
Yep, we would definitely do that. But just wanted to let you know, I wanted to cover some of these things because we got to tell you some of these things. And if I'm not going to be here for your next meeting, and that way, Jeff's, if I got an inspector can't hear, Jeff's going to come and he's going to read this to you. I got this sheet put together for me, just basically going to read it because those are the things that we have to cover in the public hearing.
He's assuming I can read.
He can.
We'll help.
So.
We'll help you out.
Hey, there's, how about the commercials, that same thing as the owner occupied, where it's a first come, first served basis, or is it?
With the waiting list also, because we had a number of projects that filled out the wait list, the surveys. So that's the same thing. We have had commercial fill in the first 60 days. So, that one we have. On the commercial side, I know that there's potential. We have to fill out a couple different things. There's 2 resolutions that we do. There's a resolution to apply for the grant. Okay, that one's pretty basic. And then there's going to be the one that sometimes we have to do a slum and blight resolution. Okay, slum and blight sounds bad, and slum and blight is bad. But in order to access federal monies, it has to be low to moderate income or slum and blight. It's a term that they make you use, so that's why we have a slum and blight resolution. And how we figure out if a property is slum or blight, there's basically 2 ways we do it. If someone fills out a survey and they tell us that they have more than 2 things they need to repair, it's considered slum and blight. If we do a windshield survey and we drive by a building and we see at least 2 things that need to be fixed, we rate it as substandard and it's figured as slum and blight. We're not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. All we're trying to do is to create a certain percentage of buildings that allow Tracy to apply for the commercial funds.
And that's never hurt property values or anything like that?
So it's just, you have to declare, and you know what, you can declare Tracy a slum and blight district. I'm sorry you have to do that, but that's the only way we can apply for the commercial funds. And that commercial target area has to be tight. So it is, as Eric had up on here, it's basically a 4-block area here. And from experience, we asked right away, can we go out to Highway 14? And we were told no. So sorry for the Highway 14 businesses, but these funds are initially intended for downtowns because those are the oldest buildings in town, and that's where they target them. The only time I have been able to go out of the downtown is in the city of Lakefield. They were doing like a $10 or $11 million project through their Highway 86 going through there, and because there was these businesses that were going to be affected while that was going on, they did a first time ever that we've gotten something not downtown. And I've been doing these, I've done a lot of these. So.
What's how do they do the income thing for the businesses?
Businesses are, see, that's why you would do your slum and blight. You don't, there's no income guidelines. Now, I know on the council there could potentially be what's called a conflict of interest. If you have a building that you're interested in doing, any one of you, doesn't matter if it's the mayor, if it's a council member or whatever, you do not vote on anything. You abstain and have it put in the minutes, okay? If we have had that on the commercial side before, and we have to go through a few more steps, city attorney needs to do a little thing, we send it into deed, and usually it's said, yep, no conflict of interest, as long as they aren't voting on anything from coming up here all the way through the grant, okay? Now, if you are a contractor and you want to bid on these projects, it's going to be a conflict. The only way you're going to bid on these projects is to leave the council. Had that happen before too, and they have never allowed it. So, just so people know that. It's just not.
Yeah, can I sign the application?
Yeah, yeah. You can sign it, you just can't vote on anything, because I need the mayor's signature. Yeah, we had another community that the mayor participated in, and we still needed his autograph. It's just, you have to
Should we defer
abstain.
to the mayor pro tem?
No.
No?
Not if he says it's fine.
Not yet.
We can still change it later. I don't know, maybe, since the council's a little skittish, maybe you could just double check on that, just to make sure.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want to have a technical thing.
Well, and what we do is we declare on the application that we have some potential conflicts of interest, and we just list those out. And then if they come up, then we dig more into them. So, but don't vote on anything if you're interested. You have to abstain, and it has to go in the minutes. Okay? Timeline on this will generally be, the application's due May 1st. I've got most of it done. Working on a lot of little things right now. If it's funded, I'm going to say usually we have these in January and we find out in June, but with COVID and all the COVID money that went out and went through deed, it slowed down that program dramatically. So we actually, the City of Jackson grant that we just got, we are just getting ready to roll right now. And we usually have these things getting ready to go in November. So we're 4 or 5 months behind. Usually, we could potentially look at holding a town meeting by the end of the year and starting the application process. We wouldn't take any applications until the first night of the town meeting. Town meeting is the kickoff. No applications go out prior to that. That's just the start date because of the first come, first serve. Project closeout would be, our project finish would be the end of 2025. So it is a 2.5 year process. Sometimes you can apply for extensions. They do not like that. The only extensions we've even asked for in the last 15 years is because of COVID, because that was just, it's still hard sometimes to get materials. So those are the only extensions we've been able to get. Other than that, let's see, conflict of interest, we will, we're working on the fact sheets, things like that, so I think that is everything that I wanted to cover. And so your slum and blight area, so you know, I've got 46 buildings in there, of which 35 are rated substandard. Okay, so it's not bad, it's just
40, there are 46?
46 in the target area,
In the commercial.
in the commercial
How
side.
many are
I
rated
think we have
what?
46 buildings. In there.
Yeah, there's,
You'd be surprised.
yep, there's all my little dots on there, yeah, there's some green ones, and one's considered demo.
Yeah.
And,
Do we get money for that one?
Yeah.
demo's not a big deal, not a big priority with deed. In fact, and it hasn't been for years and years and years. Everybody wants the demo and, but there's so much that they want to keep that the demo isn't much of a priority for them. And so, but that would tie to a slum and blight, but I've never had a demo project funded. Back in the old days, when I first started, there were some communities that took care of their own demo. I don't think you can do that anymore. But that was a long time ago. You can tell I've been working, I'm with UCAP, it's my 34th year, so I've been with them for a while. So other than that, we've covered a lot of stuff that will be in the public hearing. The public hearing will not take this long because you're going to hear the same information over again, only Jeff's going to get through it a lot quicker than I did tonight, but we wanted you guys to be able to ask questions and so forth, and I appreciate, I can't be two places that night, and I thought you guys have had a lot of experience with this. Jeff has worked with me on a lot on this, so I was much more comfortable having him here, and then I'll get through the newbie that I have that hasn't had one of these for 30 years. So I'm going to be at their public hearing that night. And that one's a public facility too.
So on behalf of all of Tracy, we'd like to thank all of you who's involved in getting this rolling again.
Yes, thank
It's
you.
nice for the city of Tracy.
You guys have been a good partner. Like I said, I'm not blowing smoke when I talk about Tracy being an active community in this. The reason you guys keep getting funded is because we keep having successful applications. If you didn't have successful applications, we wouldn't be getting funded. So, and that a lot is your city folks that are working and getting the word out and offering the loan program and being proactive in it, that's I've gotten now, and this is basically, I know Jeff and Eric know this, deed is much harder to work with than it was 10 years ago. The files have gotten thick, and there's a lot more regulation in them and things like that, but we're moving to being much more selective to the grants that we write where cities are willing to participate, because if we don't have a community that's willing to put the time in with us to do it, they aren't as successful, and we need the buy-in from the city, and Tracy has always done that. So thank you guys too, because we've done a lot of stuff in Tracy over my 30 some years here. So, but I know that's a lot of information, but this will make your public hearing shorter. So tonight's pain is a little ease in a couple weeks here for you.
Thank you, sir.
We'll hold that, Jeff, to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
And if you have any questions for me, Eric or Jeff, they got my email. They can get a hold of me, and we'll go from there. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, I'll grab my jacket
It'll be the next council meeting.
All right.
Ready to go to new business?
We are.
I'm sure you're more well than ready. The next 4 items are all related. This is the same actions that you took last year. There's actually 2 different actions. One is this is for Burgers, Bands and Brews and Aloha Night. One is you have to give them a permit to be able to do alcohol in a public park. That's something we changed, a couple years ago to allow that as long as you have a permit. And the second one is you have to give them a temporary liquor license in order to sell the product while they're at the park. Those are 2 different actions, so there's 4 of them, 2 different actions for 2 different events.
Okay.
You can probably do it. You can do them all in one shot if you want.
Start reading.
All right. Motion to approve resolution 2023-22, 2023-23, 2023-24, and 2023-25.
Second, there are no fees to be paid, right? We're not paying ourselves again, right? Okay. Making sure.
Okay, with the first and second, any discussion for that? Roll call, please.
Redneck,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Dobson,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Arvisu,
Yes.
Teagues,
Aye.
Mayor Corbin.
Aye.
The next 4 items are also related, and I'm gonna have Shane come up here and talk about this, but these are more hoops that we have to jump through for the federal government, and this is the part of this pipelining project that we're adding back in. You had approved they haven't approved the plans and specs yet, have they? Or did we do that last time?
I'm not aware of it.
No, that's coming up. I'm sorry, I apologize. I couldn't remember. But essentially what this is kind of kicking the ball down the field to start this project. So with that, Shane, I don't know what detail you want to go into or not.
All right, and I don't know, Matt, from what I understood, these had to be approved separately? Or
They do, that'd be
Okay.
preferable.
All right, so the first part of this is ordering preparation of report on improvement. So basically ordering the feasibility report for the pipelining project. So that's resolution 2023-27. If you have any questions on that.
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second.
First and second, I'm assuming no more questions because we haven't given to Shane, so we'll have roll call.
Teagues,
Aye.
Arvisu,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Dobson,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Landite,
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
So next resolution 2023-28 is receiving the feasibility report, and that should have been attached in your packet.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-28.
I'll second it. We got it all covered.
Who did, George?
No.
No.
Seth?
So, perfect.
First and second, roll call, please.
I have a question quick. Does this cover all the piping that we were gonna do?
Yes.
Okay.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Teagues,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Arvisu,
Yes.
Landite,
Aye.
Dobson,
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
All right, the third one would be 2023-29, ordering improvements and directing preparation of final plans and speculation for the pipelining project. Any questions on that portion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-29, ordering improvements and directing preparation of final plans and specs.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Arvisu,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Teagues,
Aye.
Landite,
Aye.
Dobson,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
All right, the last one is 2023-30. That's a kind of two parts, approving plans and specs and ordering advertisement for bids. If you had any questions on the project, or I know I put it in the memo what the map was as far as what areas of town. It's kind of spread out throughout town, but
Are there many companies that do this?
there's quite a few actually out there. Nothing really around here.
We should get several bids on it.
I would think so, yeah.
Do we have an engineer's estimate on the project cost?
Do.
The
1.3, 1.4 is what sticks in my head.
Yep, 1.4 is.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-30 to approve plans and specs and ordering advertisement for the bids.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Dobson,
Yes.
Landite,
Aye.
Teagues,
Aye.
Arvisu,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Jones,
Aye.
Mayor Corman.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything for anything else?
Anything for the,
Mayor, Council, I have nothing for the public portion of the meeting.
Okay, so
Motion to close the regular meeting and open the closed meeting.
Second.